Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. We have a workshop item this evening that we will start with first. Charles, this is 1017 Portland Road, map 64, lots 2 and 3. And this is a sketch plan review for 84 elderly housing units in site improvements in Portland Road. Anything to add on this before we begin?
Not right now. I'll pull up the sketch plan. I know you guys had it in your packet, but I'm just going to pull it up on the screen for you right now.
Great. We have the applicant with us this evening.
Good evening,
Go ahead.
Rob McSorley with Saco Technics. I'm representing the applicant 1015 US 1 Inc. or Limited Liability Corporation. Coming before you to present a sketch plan to you as shown on, I assume, the monitors to the side here. The sketch plan that we have provided to you was a result of some preliminary meeting or coordination that we had with the city back in late July of this year. We actually presented on an online meeting two layouts that had some units that kind of backed up to the commercial area to the north, and also a layout that included a cottage type product. One of the comments from staff recommended that we do not butt up against that north property line and that we position our residential buildings closer to the residential use to the south. So we kind of reconfigured our site. We limited the amount of units that we have on the portion to the north and located those more southerly. The buildings that you see there are 3-story buildings. We had a lot more lower 2-story duplexes and, of course, the cottage units at one time. Staff recommended that we look at going vertical versus more units to open up the site a little bit more, and so we have done that. The prior configurations kind of ended in a dead-end T section, right where you see the two larger buildings that are labeled 24 unit buildings. We did have a T section there, and then we had a parking lot to continue around. One of the comments that staff had recommended is to make a connection to Don Marie Drive, which is the road to the east on the plans, or to your right. We would love to make a connection to Don Marie and connect to the utilities there. We had some extensive coordination with the developer of that property that did not prove fruitful, and so we were unable to come to terms to make those connections. However, per staff request, what we have done is provided for a future connection down at that property line there. That's what you see on the plans, both for pedestrian and for vehicles in the future. One of the other things they had requested, though not shown on this plan, is to provide a pedestrian access through the site also for the adjacent Blue Haven motor court, which we would be more than happy to do. One of the things that we would be looking at, we would like to gravity feed down into Don Marie, but it looks like we're going to have to pump up to Portland Road. We will provide a stub out to be able to pick up the Blue Heron motor court, their sanitary. That system, or that property, currently has about 5 different septic systems on site, and we would hope to clean that up a bit. I know that when we talked to staff, they said that the project would require conditional use approval, as it would be multifamily residential project, which we don't have an issue with. We did have some comments from the city engineer that might be in your package. There was nothing really substantial. We would address all of those, of course, when we go through the process for a full detailed plan set and whatnot. Site distance is not a problem on either road. They're flat and there's wide open in either direction. There is a concern relative to future paving that will happen this year on Portland Road, and what we would do is try to coordinate to make whatever work that we need to have done out there. Probably would be just a water main connection and reconfiguration of the driveway. Everything else would be pulled off the power poles on our side of the street, or the connection to the sewer would be a manhole that is already stubbed out to the property. I touched on most of the highlights there, and would be more than happy to get your input relative to the plan that we've laid out and how you see we could move forward.
Great, thank you, sir. Board members, any questions for the applicant? Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First question I had, the dumpster that you have laid out, I know it was a comment brought up by the Department of Public Works. Is this a dumpster that the residents will be bringing their own trash to be collected, or will you have like a maintenance team that will bring it from each building? I was just wondering in the sense, because it's a fairly large campus, if you will,
Yep.
and if elderly are planning to have to bring it from their building all the way to the dumpster, I didn't know if that was going to be problematic, or if we should be looking at, you know, 2 dumpster locations or something.
We actually have thought about that, and as you come in right there, there's a good spot to have another dumpster to the front that staff or residents could dump on their way out from their trunk of their car or whatnot, and be easy to be hit. But that's a great suggestion, and we've already looked at that, to add that.
Okay. My next one I had, just looking at the site, I'm sure you will at finals like to see some turning overlay movements for the fire apparatus and whatever trash collection you're going to have for positioning, so they don't have to back up too far. That's pretty standard. And
Yeah, we tried to get the layout of that parking so that we can make the movement around there. We may need to lose a couple parking spaces to make sure that we make that movement, but we do a typical analysis for that, so that wouldn't be a problem.
I was wondering, could you explain a little bit the north entrance, the Route 1 entrance, if you will? No offense, it just looks a little confusing to me. It's kind of tucked in behind, and you must be trying to do the commercial frontage thing with the lot. I just look at that, and as we move forward, if that continues, maybe some conceptual plan, pictures, or a site walk would be very helpful. It just seems kind of like tucked in there, and I'm not really sure how that'll work.
Yeah. We assume it's a stop condition, so there can be an appropriate taper to one side or whatnot, but we can provide more detail on that. We just proposing to use the existing driveway. The existing building on site is slated to stay. It's currently, that lot, the 117 lot, is an existing non-conforming lot of record because of the building and other issues with the property. With the addition of the 2 properties that we have together, it will actually make it a conforming lot with a non-conforming building, because the conformance comes from the frontage on Don Marie, although we don't have the rights to it yet, but we can certainly address that concern.
Okay. I want to kind of touch on or echo the DPW's stormwater management plan. If there's a backup plan as far as if there is not capacity that's available in the city-owned detention pond. And it kind of brought me to, there's the upper portion, so kind of to the east, there's a lot that's noted as to be conveyed to Park North Development, 0.84 acres.
We were actually, that was some of the discussion that we had with the adjacent property owner about swapping property, and that is not going to go forward. the intent on the stormwater course, we would have to meet both DEP and city requirements. There would be a requirement for pre versus post and water quality, and we would meet those. Currently, the site all drains that way and outfalls naturally that way, so we have a historical discharge, and we wouldn't exceed the capacity that previously exists on site.
But is that 8.4 acres, like, still in your client's control, that if it was
Yeah,
needed, they could be utilized?
Yeah, everything on here is in our control.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just too bad, because ultimately, you know, from a planning point of view, if you could connect on the Don Marie and get to the signalized intersection would be the real desire.
We agreed, but
And I understand, right, but I'm glad you're putting the effort forward.
Yeah.
That brings me to the next piece is, at some point, we're going to be talking traffic mitigation, traffic studies. I'm kind of hopeful, and I know it's a lot, but I think the board, with the talk about the Route 1 traffic pattern change, I think that any traffic study they bring forth should have those conditions included. In other words, the one northbound, one southbound lane, and a shared turn lane, and then pedestrian lanes. I think that could greatly change counts and our review of this project, particularly where you're not going to have the benefit at this point of getting to the signalized intersection.
Well, one good thing in elderly housing, the trip generation is much lower. We won't be tripping traffic movement permit, and so it's really up to, you know, making sure we take care of your needs and, you know, the trip analysis that we do.
Sure, I understand you won't trip the traffic movement permit, but, you know, I think from my point of view, it's a big deal with those proposed changes and impacts. The more vehicles, entrances, and exits that we have off of that corridor is where the conflict's going to generate, and having peer traffic review or traffic review is very important. And then the last one I had, well, I did have water capacity. I saw you had a request out, but we didn't have a reply for Maine Water at the time of the packet.
Yeah, we have not reached out to them. We had some preliminary conversations on the sewer side because we're looking at going to Don Marie. We have not discussed it. We assume that there should be adequate flows out there.
Yeah, and the fire protection.
Yeah.
Flow.
And there's a fire hydrant right there, pretty close on the US 1, but we would bring an 8-inch line in, and there would be a fire hydrant placed closer to the rear buildings so that the fire department doesn't need to yank lines all the way down the way.
Now, you also had one note that was noted as open space. Is that intended to meet the requirements of open space for the project? Or is that just space that is going to be left vacant, but if it needed to be stormwater, it would as well? It's between the first building to the north, the two smaller buildings?
It would probably, it may have some stormwater feature in it as part of the open space tract.
Okay.
Yeah, we're planning probably a combination of some surface stuff where we can, and then it would probably be underground storage and treatment for the remainder.
I mean, I think it has a lot of potential and serves, you know, a need for an elderly units. It'd be great to have that connectivity, and if we can, whatever the staff and you guys can continue to do to work on the Park North applicant would be fantastic. That's all I had, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other? Jim?
I just had a few questions. One was, I assume you're going to have some sort of centralized mailbox or a couple
Yeah.
different centralized mailbox locations?
Yeah, it'll be at the front of the thing. We get them off the road and then have a mailbox up at the front.
Now, one of the, I was looking at the entities that, you know, the deeds going into the entities, and it looks like for the 1015 property, it looks like there was one LLC that had a 70% interest, and another LLC had a 30% interest, and then a completely different entity owned 1017. So how will you eventually have all that sorted out?
The owner of 1017 owns a portion of the project to the south with a partner, and they would work in unison for the overall project.
So would the entire project be, go forward with multiple entities owning this property?
They haven't decided the final breakout. There's some discussion of buying out the interest just for that back portion of the property, but it's either going to be jointly owned or put in one LLC.
Okay. And I'm sure that can work. It just makes it more complicated, right? In case
Well,
disputes
well,
arise later on?
What would happen legally, if two entities were there, they would create a joint LLC, and they
Okay.
would both be legal members of it.
Which is, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's what I was,
It won't be, somebody owns 30% of the site, and, no, it's got to be one entity will own, and then they have shares within that.
well, that's what I was hoping you were going to say, so.
I wouldn't want to be in the middle of that.
No, that's very helpful. And I just wanted to echo what Jeff mentioned about the trash, and I have a relative who lived in one of these elderly housing projects, and walking, quite a distance to go and take your trash out was, created a real problem for some people, and
Yeah,
for my relative.
like I said, we'd put the other trash receptacle towards the front. They could use it on their way out, or, the one to the rear or whatnot. Trash maintenance, collection, of course, will be by private company. There will be a project manager for the property relative to snow plowing, snow removal, grass and what maintenance, and of course, taking care of the garbage and whatnot.
And you sound pretty confident that the amount of parking that you've planned for will be adequate for?
Way adequate. I believe the requirement for elderly is half a space per unit. We typically recommend our owners to be closer to one. Because of the geometry of the site and how we can fit stuff on there. We actually had closer to a one-to-one. With the access that we need to put down to Marie, it opened up some more parking, and we've just showed it on that. We might pare that back, but we recommend to the owner to be about one-to-one.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, at this other elderly housing project, they didn't anticipate the folks living there having cars, and so there was a shortage of parking spaces, and it created a lot of conflict of people who lived there. So I think it's a great idea that you're trying to get one-to-one, if possible, parking spaces to units.
Currently, we're about 1.5 to 1.
That's
So,
great. That's all I had. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you, Jim. Any other thoughts, questions from board members? Joyce?
I wanted to comment on the proposed vegetated islands in the middle of the parking area. It's good to see that, because that tends to be something that developers try to propose. We allow them to waive. I was wondering, especially on the north side of the property, about plans for buffering.
We
That
would probably
seems
use
to be a pretty.
a fence and a narrow hedge would be what we probably would propose along there.
Right, because we're talking, that's commercial.
Yeah, yeah.
Commercial
And that's
uses
why
up above.
staff had recommended us to move the buildings away from that property line to the residential use to the south.
Sure. And along the other boundaries, same thing, fences or
On the south
plantings
side,
of some
the
sort?
south and side adjacent to the blue haven will be landscape. We'll use a fencing and hedging on the north. We'll use more of a landscape, pure landscape buffer on the other ones. We have the area there.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you, Joyce. Any other thoughts from board members? Yeah, I echo a lot of our comments here so far. A few low-hanging fruit is utilities, snow storage, lighting, design compatibility. You talked about the scale of the buildings. Jeff had a good question there, in that the front of the property, what's happening there with that existing building? Is that residential use as well, from what I understand?
Currently residential use, it will be continued to be that. Staff had recommended possibly it be converted in the future to an elderly service type commercial use. But right now, the intent is to preserve that as a housing.
Sure. And then how does that, the front of the property, relate and is compatible now to the rear of the property, all one property? And
It'll be on one property. There won't be a breakout.
sure. But for example, landscaping, buffering, the overall general character of how that presents at North Street. We'll have or on Portland Road, excuse me, the progression of the experience through to the rear of the property, and how.
One of the things we'll be taking out is some pavement to the south side near that front building so that we can put kind of a landscaping corridor in there. You can see that there's a garage building. It's not labeled as such, but there's pavement right up along there. And that would be removed for a landscaping feature and whatnot to help transition into the property to the south.
Okay, that sounds good. That's what I'm getting at. And then to echo Joyce's comment as well about the buffering, the board will look for significant trees, large caliper trees, to understand, what is out there. But again, the buffering, there's a lot of the site that I suspect, as far as that vegetation that's going to be need to be removed for the project. So buffering, landscape, vegetation, what goes back in is going to be very important.
Yeah, that's the buffers along the perimeter, and as you noted, some of the islands inside, so that we have some trees in there to feature the parking lot. And whatnot,
Sure.
So we don't have just pavement.
Yeah. I also noted the dumpster. I thought that was peculiar, one dumpster so far, and found it interesting to maybe not do, for elderly housing, not do internal trash removal or trash rooms or anything like that. So thinking more about that, I think, would be good. And then I love the sidewalks throughout the property going to Don Marie. The parking area towards the rear and south with the 7 spaces, it appears. I'm just looking at that and seeing how the rest of the sidewalk is in and around the parking spaces, but then those last 7 seems to disconnect. So I guess I was thinking about the use here and the opportunity to keep pedestrians out of the traveled way from vehicles the best we can.
I don't think
Seems to
that is
make
a problem.
sense.
We can look at that. Like I said, we're overparked right now, and that's something that we can come on.
Sure. And then with that overall signage throughout, I'm going to steal Jeff's word here, is perfect. Signage throughout the campus here. Understanding if there's going to be any crosswalks or any sort of patterns or pavement markings to additionally define and maybe something different or more than what we would typically see. But just to be very specific as to what's happening in that parking area, I think is always a good idea.
Yeah, we have a couple areas where pedestrian traffic will cross, and we would put wide stripe designation for that. That's pretty obvious.
Sure. And then parking, I think at least myself. I think reducing the amount of pavement, the board seems to typically be in support of. But in this particular scenario, I guess I'm wondering about maybe going with a little bit more accessible spaces to see if maybe there's opportunity. If you have extra spaces, then maybe there's a few more accessible spaces at each entrance. Maybe some of the larger buildings, I guess, is what I'm thinking. The two entrances to the larger buildings each get. I know it's not a requirement, but just thought to that.
We can look at that.
Because there's 84, we're at 84 units, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 10 accessible parking spaces for elderly
About
housing. I think.
12%.
Yeah, maybe bumping that number up might be good. But anyway, those are my only thoughts. But I think this is a great start. Yeah. Any other thoughts from board members? All right, great.
One question, any real concerns other than what we've addressed tonight?
It doesn't sound like it. I think going through the process here, working with staff, in getting an introduction to it, that's always very helpful. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Staff has been very helpful today.
Well, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I guess one more thing. I mean, these are going to be apartments, not condos?
I don't know if that's been decided yet, so it would be one or the other. And they would appropriately, have a property management group regardless.
Sure. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I guess when we're talking of concerns, I mean, I'm usually the one that advocates, especially the Portland Road, the segregation of uses. We have a commercial use on an abutting property. However, with the momentum and the desire for the city to infill, they are in that outer section, which is now really made the transition to the bulk of residential. So I'm always fearful of the creep, that we're losing a lot of our commercial zone, but in this particular case, where it's filling in, I think it makes some sense, and we as a board need to try to continue that vision of that area. I know there have been some self-storage units that get plopped up in there, and harmoniousness, for the area, that scale that we're talking about. And if we're going to infill our Scarborough border back residentially, I think this works with what's going on out there. I just get nervous about the pattern of mixed uses, and the transient use of the Blue Haven could be, that noise complaint. And if you guys were to come back and be including more of that parcel into this overall vision, would make that sense of uniformity very positive in my eyes, if that were to be something that were to come into be. That way we have, some focus-needed elderly community without the worry about the noise, the ruckus, the seasonal function of a traditional, motel in the backyard. That would be, positive if that were to be at some point in the plans, or a Phase B, if it were to be clearly labeled. Those were all positives in my eyes. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And then the condominium route, staff will assist with any additional requirements and documents that we may need for that. And then, last final thought, any thought on EV charging on the property?
I
Haven't got that far
would
yet?
have to talk with
Sure.
the client and whatnot.
Okay.
It's always a good thing to have. The one thing is, what we've seen with a lot of the fire departments, they don't want those chargers up next to the buildings, and that's typically where you want to put the parking in this instant. So I will talk with the client on that, and then we'll have some discussion with the fire department.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, good evening, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the planning board and valued community representatives. I welcome you all to this evening's assembly of the Saco Planning Board. As chair, it is my privilege to convene this gathering dedicated to the thoughtful planning and development of our community. Today, we come together with a shared commitment to shaping the future of our city in a manner that reflects our values, respects our heritage, and fulfills the needs of our residents both now and in the future. Our agenda tonight contains important matters, each requiring our careful consideration, expertise, and collaboration. As we engage in our deliberations, let us remember the profound impact these decisions will have on the lives of all, keeping in mind we're residents like you. It is our duty to maintain transparency, fairness, and inclusivity in our proceedings, ensuring that the voices of all are heard and respected. Together, we must embrace the responsibility entrusted to us by our community, working diligently and thoughtfully to chart a course that fosters growth, prosperity, and harmony. With that, I'd like to call this meeting of the Tuesday, February 24th, Saco Planning Board to order. I look forward to the productive discussions and meaningful outcomes that lie ahead. Thank you. With us this evening, myself, Matt Provenzel, the chair of the board, and to my left, we have our vice chair, Joyce Larry Clark, and board members Jeff Bruscio, Catherine Palini, and to my right, board members Carrie Lynn Lane, Jim Moyer, and Chris Gagnon. With us, our staff members this evening are our city planner, Charles Tillman, and our planning compliance manager, Lisa Harmon, and with us as well, our Ward 7 City Council liaison, Nate Johnson. Our first item on our agenda this evening is our our review of our draft meeting minutes from our February 17th meeting. Do board members have any questions, comments, edits, or concerns? Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to focus on page 1, item B for Remick Drive. It's kind of like the third paragraph, I think fourth sentence. So it says, most lots will connect to public sewer and water on Jenkins Road, while 2 lots will have private sewer and well. My understanding or my interpretation is that most lots will connect to Jenkins public sewer via that force main E1 system, but each lot would still have a private well because the public water was not out that far. That was one of the questions I had asked the applicant as far as being forced to connect if they were within the 1,500 feet. So did I misunderstand? I mean, if not, we should edit and strike "and water" on that so that we know that most of the lots will connect to public sewer on Jenkins Road and strike the public water.
Yeah, I believe you're correct. That was my understanding as well, that the well with the E1 system pumping to Jenkins Road.
Right, and I think that, yeah, I mean, there is no public water that far, but the applicant was going to find out whether they were close enough that they would be required to connect. And if Howard would let them connect.
So it would just be striking "and water," and water?
Yes.
Got it.
So, Mr. Chair, if there are no other comments or edits, I would move that we adopt the draft meeting minutes from February 17th, 2026, as edited this evening.
Second?
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Jim. Any additional discussion on the motion to adopt the minutes as edited? All right, those in favor. Chris?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Carrie Lynn?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 7-0. Our next item on our agenda this evening is our planning board public hearing guidelines. This is a document developed by the board and city staff outlining the procedure in place for our public hearings to be held. This explains the purpose of the public hearings and the outlined procedure of reviewing an application, public comment presentation, and meeting duration. If anyone has any questions on this document of the process, please let us know. We have hard copies available at the rear of the auditorium, along with digital copies available on the website as well. With that, we'll move to our next item, item 6. This is our public comment period. This is where we will open our public comment to hear from members of the public. This period is limited to 15 minutes to items not under planning board review. The planning board appreciates public comments and knows that the public has matters and knows that public comment about matters before us can help the board understand neighborhood concerns, review an application, or help address an outstanding item. Those wishing to make statements about an application under planning board's review are asked to provide those statements during the applicable public hearing period. Comments during this period are limited to 3 minutes per person. If there are multiple members of the public looking to speak, we may adjust that time period to accommodate all speakers. With that, if anyone is with us this evening that would like to speak, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. We will collect those comments and address them accordingly. All right, seeing no members of the public wishing to participate this evening, we will continue to our next item. Item 7, this is our planning applications under review and public hearings. Our first item is 7A. This is 100 Main Street, map 37, lot 1, and this is presented by 100 Main LLC. We have an application of completeness review this evening for preliminary subdivision and site plan review for the conversion of office space into 6 residential dwelling units within the Saco Island zoning district. Charles, do you have any additional comments or information on this before we begin?
Yes. So this project has taken me on a roller coaster Thursday and Friday last week, kind of getting adjusted to Saco. A couple things to note here, and I've already discussed this with the applicant team. The application before us is only a site plan application. At times, and this memo is very confusing, it says conditional use preliminary subdivision. After we posted it, I was doing a little bit more research and realized that this is not a preliminary subdivision because it is exempt through state law. And it's also not a conditional use because it's part of a master development plan that was approved before we removed it. So with both of those, as it has, pending preceded vested interest as a master development plan, it's still an approved use in the Saco Island District. While we can't grant any more, it still applies here. So apologies for the confusion on my end. I should have caught it much sooner. But this is solely a site plan application before you tonight. So.
All right, great. Thank you for the clarity. Board members, any questions for staff before we begin? Any conflicts or disclosures? All right, and with that, we'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you. Good evening. Drew Olowski with Haley Ward, representing the applicant, 100 Main LLC. So thank you, Charles, for the clarification on that. So again, we're here for a site plan review for a conversion of use. The property is located at 100 Main Street, specifically Building 3. Most would recognize it on Saco Island as the building that holds the run-of-the-mill restaurant on the first floor. On the second floor of the building, there's currently vacant office space. And then on the upper floors, there are an existing 25 residential apartments. So for our project, we are proposing to convert that office space on the second floor to 6 additional residential units. Historically, the most recent tenant of that office space was a call center, but again, they aren't here now, so it's vacant. So again, we're just looking to add as many units as we can, which is 6, just to help bolster the housing supply in downtown Saco, because we know this is quite an important issue. So yeah, as you'll see from our application, we did request waivers for many of the site plan checklist requirements. This is because there are no proposed changes to the exterior of the site. All of our changes are just interior retrofits to convert that office space to residential units. So as I said, there are 6 units proposed. They'll each be approximately 500 square feet with 1 bedroom. So of the site plan checklist items that we didn't request waivers for, we did provide a bit of narrative for each of those within our application. Some of these topics included parking, traffic, water usage. So just jumping quickly into a few of those. Regarding parking, we did provide parking calcs per the city ordinance demonstrating that the proposed use actually requires less parking spaces than the office space did. Parking is provided in the large lot behind the building adjacent to the river. Our building does have a set amount of parking spaces allotted to us, and then there's a shared pool of spaces for other buildings in the area. There's currently no known issues with having enough parking on our site. And again, we're expecting the demand to be less with this use, so no expected issues there. Regarding traffic, we did put together traffic calculations indicating a comparison of the traffic volumes expected from the original office use and the proposed residential use. Our findings showed that the overall volume is expected to be slightly less with the proposed use, but the expected peak hour traffic is expected to be slightly higher. Either way, those numbers are much less than what the threshold is for needing a DOT permit or for needing a local traffic assessment. So again, we're not expecting any issues with traffic for such a small use as this. Regarding water usage, we have already reached out to Maine Water. They did provide a capacity to serve letter, so no issues there. We did receive a few staff comments on our application, again, none of which we thought were concerning. One was related to the fire department's review of this project, specifically the Knox box access as well as the sprinkler redesign to accommodate the new units. So we've already spoken with them initially, and we'll continue to coordinate with them to make sure that all of their concerns are addressed prior to occupancy of the building. I know another comment was related to the layout of the proposed apartments. We do have a preliminary floor plan prepared already. It wasn't included in this application, but I'd be happy to provide that for a future submission, just in case you're interested. So yeah, I think that's really the highlights of this application. Again, I think it's pretty straightforward. Again, not having any exterior changes to the site plays a big role in what we provided here. So if the board has any other questions or comments, I'd be happy to try to address those. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Board members, any questions for the applicant? Drew, are there condominiums in this building? Is there are any of the units condoized? Is there anything like that we need to look at or review?
The 6 new ones, they'll all be apartments. They'll all be rented out by the owners. Of the 25 existing units, I believe 22 are rented, and then 3 of them are owned by run-of-the-mill, and those are used to house their employees.
So, but as far as any of the, well, I guess what I'm asking, are there any HOA documents that exist that need to be revised and updated to include residential over office space?
Sure. Nope, there's not.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Paul Weinstein with me, the owner's attorney.
Okay, so no HOA docs that
Yep.
are part of this that need to be revised. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions from board members?
Mr. Chair, just a comment. I looked at those waiver requests, and under this particular circumstance, it seems like they all make sense. It's a lot of waivers, but when you're trying to just reuse an existing building and you're not changing anything on the outside, it seems quite reasonable to go and make those waiver requests. So when the time comes and we will discuss that more fully, it at least looks to me like they're sensible in this instance.
Thank you, Jim. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess the staff's comments just kind of threw me a little bit for a loop with the permitted uses, and I get that it's a master plan. The residential use was a conditional use in zoning before. So if we approve it, are we expanding a non-conforming use?
It's a little bit more nuanced because it's a plan, it's a master development, which is just a permitted use. So anything that was under that approval, any use that was part of that, still applies. So it's where today, if they came in without this, it would be a conditional use. They're vested under their previous approval as because it's not non-conforming, it's a permitted use. The city just doesn't grant any new master development plans.
So is there an existing master plan development we should be reviewing and making sure this is compatible with?
I am working on finding it right now. I haven't been able to find the approval. I have all the previous plans for that whole site, but the description of the master development plan I have not been able to locate yet. So we're still looking for it.
Because, you know, on the surface, I too was kind of looking, okay, all the waivers make sense, it's inside the building. But when that was brought up, when I'm reading the zoning, the purpose of the Saco Island District is the Saco Island District is intended to allow for large-scale, innovative, comprehensively designed, mixed development and redevelopment of property in the area known as Factory Island. This classification recognizes the unique features of this area, including the proximity to the downtown, frontage on the Saco River, and its past intensive industrial use, and is meant to encourage flexible but carefully thought out reuse of the land and its buildings. And, you know, I just don't want to see it all swing to residential. You know, there's been a lot of great ideas, and all the zoning revisions that we talk about those mixed use, the walkability, the dining, and is this, you know, 6 more units into all residential? I mean, you kind of see the theme that's going on down there, you know, there's 2 very popular eateries, right? And there's some professional buildings in the upper lot. With that pattern, it seems like the mission of the Saco Island District is working. And I guess it's up to us to try to weigh out is having additional residential the desired goal there. So that was kind of the question just came to me tonight. The waivers, Jim, I agreed all of the ones that were listed, and I had several, with the possible exception of the lighting plan. I'm not sure if there are any outside balconies that we want to be addressing if the lighting is over the lumen output for a decorative wall fixture. So I don't know if I necessarily want to waive that one just yet. And then the traffic analysis, I kind of picked up on that. That's been changed as well, and I think we should at least have a peer review during this process because of the new traffic pattern that's taking place down there, the redesign on the Gateway project, everything coming up York Hill, just to make sure that it's still going to be compliant with the vision for there. And I did notice there was no comment from the wastewater recovery division on capacity to serve. I guess you took Haley Ward said, oh, the use isn't going to change, so we don't need to weigh in. And I guess for me, residential use has much more gallons per day than an office may, you know, especially if it was a small, you know, accounting office or, you know, we don't know what those uses were. That's what we rely on the expertise of our water recovery division. They should be weighing in to make sure that they have the capacity to serve, because I believe there is a pump station down there. It's right next to the river, and we don't want to start having bypass events and having the city paying fees. They should definitely be weighed in. I don't think we should be waiving that either. So those were kind of my initial thoughts, but I too, Jim, could support you know, the bulk of those waivers if we wanted to work on those this evening, but thank you.
Great,
I
thank you,
have
Jeff.
Water Resources they have the capacity to serve drafted. So that's in the memo. So they did provide comments. They are gonna, water resource recovery capacity to serve drafted. I don't know what that fully means, but that was the comment I received from them. But I can follow up as well. And I'll get you more information, the board, for the master development plan. I know I just quickly checked in with Dave Toomey to make sure that this would be okay. So he gave the, he explained the use, the existing use, the previous approval. I will try to get more information to show how this use is consistent, just for a little bit more context, because I think that'd be helpful for everyone.
Great, thank you. Any other thoughts or questions from board members?
Yes, Mr. Chair,
Joyce.
just a comment. I'm pretty sure that we have approved another change of use from office to residential, same building as Social Security office, within the past few years. It was basically the same type of application. Personally, I don't have an issue with the traffic. There's a traffic light there now. So I don't think the impact of residents of 6 apartments versus 6 offices is going to be significant. And I don't know what more an applicant could do when there's a brand-new traffic light.
Thank you, Joyce. I think you're right. I think it was at Building 2, maybe recently, that we had a few residential uses, but yeah, I share the thoughts of some of our board members here. I think the bulk of the waivers, I think, makes sense as well. I think, I guess the interesting one, or the big one for me that might answer some of the questions and maybe some of Jeff's comments as well, is understanding and getting an updated existing conditions plan. So I think that would start to talk about and maybe explain some of the utility, landscaping, lights, if we can, how many units, the quantity of residential units versus offices, understand what that ratio is. I think that'll answer Jeff's questions. Understanding that there are no changes to the exterior, but what is the exterior now? What do we, where does it fall into play? Do we have any, it's a great question, are there any exterior spaces that are part of these units? And that was sort of my big thought to this. And I understand, I support the area and not doing a lot of exterior and focusing on the interior, but understanding where the exterior is at. That's the question. We do have the light, I think, is our peer reviewer will get this as well? We'll get comments from them?
Yeah, I can send that back out. Usually, if the use is less intensive, we don't look to get another traffic review. But given that there's been change, I can work with Public Works and our traffic peer reviewer to get comments. So I'll follow up on that too.
Sure. I think in the past we've received some just memos or some email comments back, and maybe that works in a scenario like this. But Charles, you mentioned getting more information on the master plan development. Joyce is correct. We have reviewed another building, I think, that's probably part of this. But other than that, that was my only thought.
Mr. Chair, this is, all we're doing tonight is just determining the application complete or not,
Correct.
if I'm right. So, given our discussion tonight, I would move that we find the application complete.
Respectfully, Mr. Chair, I think we need to grant waivers before we can find the application complete, though.
That was just going to ask that. I was waiting for a second, but in your motion, Jim, is your intent to grant the application complete with granting the the waivers as requested as well? Is that sort of maybe a full motion, or?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so confirming Jim's motion to find the application complete and grant the waivers as requested. Motion by Jim.
I'll second.
Second by Joyce. All right, discussion. Jeff?
So can we ask the applicant if there's going to be 0 changes on the exterior lighting on any limited common spaces, or to determine, because his motion is going to include a waiver of the lighting plan. And, I mean, some of us know what the lighting is like down there, and the tenants are getting into the units, but if there's any changes that are proposed, any light fixtures being added on the exterior of the building at all.
That's correct. There's no proposed changes. As you mentioned, there's already 25 units in this building. So it's taken into account that these residents are safe already with the current lighting that they have. So we don't expect any changes, so we're not proposing any.
So perhaps with the motion for additional discussion, with the motion to grant the waivers as requested, I think the board could ask for additional clarity because they're application items. So we can always ask for more information. So perhaps more information on the lighting, that they are they're full cutoff fixtures. You're not adding any. There are no balconies, sort of components like that to that. Charles mentioned the note from wastewater. Any other, Jeff?
I also have, they did provide it, financial capacity, I think it's a little weak, so if they could submit like a budgetary number of what this project is going to cost, and then have the lending institution reference that the 6-unit renovation should be X amount of dollars, and we're willing to back him for this project. That sort of detail, I think, is very important. We should hold to, I mean, but he did provide something, I just think it's weak, so I think a resubmittal would be better as we move forward.
Yeah, I share that thought as well. And maybe, Charles, can you confirm, I guess, a little peculiar in this scenario where it's all internal and there are no exterior site improvements or any improvements in public way or city property, does that, while the financial capacity is required, how does that, where we're looking for a value?
It's still a site plan, and they still need to have financial capacity, regardless of, if it's just updating a few buildings, it's correct and applicable for the planning board to request financial capacity regardless of how much it is.
Sure, it's that value, I guess,
Yeah.
that's the piece that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
What would the board look for a value?
It's the,
The value of the build-out of the conversion?
yeah, how much the conversion is going to take, whether that's legal fees, documented fees. It may not be much, and they might just sell the units without much work and put it on the owners. But just a letter from the bank saying they have enough financial capacity to do this.
With a
And-
value?
With the value, yeah.
That was the clarity I was looking for.
Yeah.
Great. Catherine?
I don't remember seeing it. Is there a plan for trash? Is it just going in the dumpster behind the building? Is that where everyone else
That's
puts it?
correct.
Okay. So it's all like private pickup. Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts from board members? All right, motion made by Jim, seconded by Joyce to find the application complete and grant the waivers as requested, with the board requesting a few additional items of clarity. All right, those in favor, Chris?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Carrie Lynn?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 7-0. So with that, Charles, do we have a date available to review and do a public hearing on this item?
March 17th.
March 17th.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we schedule a public hearing for March 17th in this matter.
Jim, would you mind, can we find the application complete and schedule the public hearing? Because we just granted the waivers, correct?
Oh, I
Oh, was it both?
I thought it was both.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah,
Then,
sorry.
then I will second that motion. Sorry.
All right, motion by Jim, seconded by Jeff to schedule public hearing for March 17th. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Chris,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Carrie Lynn,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Catherine.
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 7-0. All right, great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, continuing this evening, we will move to our next item, 7B. This is 986 Portland Road, Phase 1. This is map 63, lot 63-1, and this is presented by Cloverleaf Development LLC. This is a continued application completeness review and public hearing for preliminary subdivision and site plan for a 3-lot subdivision and private right-of-way within the Portland Road zoning district. Anything to add to this item, Charles?
Yes. One, there was an updated subdivision plat that was submitted earlier today by the applicant. That's been included in the after-the-fact packet, and it's the only document in there. I just want to give a high-level overview now that there are officially 2 Cloverleaf Development, 986 Portland, Phase 1 and Phase 2. And I won't go into the details because the applicant can speak to those. But we do have 2 separate applications kind of moving together for the same property, just so you guys are aware. So this is the Phase 1 application. I'm going to try to label all the document material and stuff as Phase 1. And then the stuff for Phase 2, which is the next stage of development. So another way to look at it is this is an amendment to the Phase 1 approval, and then Phase 2 is under the separate application, and that has been requested to table, but we'll get into that in a second. So that's all I have for right now, and the applicant can explain, why they're doing this and things like that.
All right, great, thank you. Questions for staff, Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Charles, I think that's helpful. We're breaking out Phase 1 and Phase 2. So a lot of the peer review comments, like from Normando for the wetlands of significance where it was on that back parcel, is it safe to say staff, everyone's viewing that as Phase 2? And it doesn't need to be, cumbersome to what's before us tonight for this turnaround?
That's a good question. I think we have to look at the entire site, so the Phase 1 comments, wetland, they may be more applicable to the development in Phase 2 as there's no disturbance to those areas. So I think we can think about separating some of those comments from each other. But because their comments, the comments from, especially from the wetland wildlife reviewer, they apply to both Phase 1 and Phase 2 in terms of Phase 1 is just showing them accurately and updating those comments, and you can see that on the plan submitted tonight. And what had been submitted to you included the Phase 2 development in response to the wetland. So that's kind of why we had the supplemented submission today, showing Phase 1 with the wetland changes. But I think the applicant would be better to speak to that and answer that question for you.
All right, thank you. Board members, any conflicts or disclosures on this item before we begin? Joyce?
I think I talked about this when the application first came forward. My mom is the abutter on the north side of this property. Pretty much the entire north side.
Yep. Thank you for the reminder, Joyce. And with that, we'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Jeff Amos. I'm an engineer with Teradyne Consultants, and I'm here tonight with Kerry Anderson. He's one of the applicants of Cloverleaf Development LLC. First of all, just to reiterate what Charles said, this application is for the installation of a hammerhead and creation of lot lines around what's already there for financing purposes. And the applicant can speak to that more directly if you want more information about that. So this is, we do have a second application for the phase two. Let's just speak to the third-party wetland comments. So it's important to understand where those came from. So those were generated, we submitted this project to full phase two back in the end of 2024. And as part of that, they did a very professional third-party review of the wetlands, and decided they found an emergent wetland that we were crossing. They located a couple of streams on there and located some additional wetlands. So we were in agreement with almost everything that they had shown out there. Our wetland person met them, walked it with the GPS and delineated the additional wetlands and the stream locations. The only thing that we did not agree with, there was a stream shown. So right from phase one, the extension of the road going down, right at the bottom of that hill, that's where the emergent wetland is. So we're crossing right through it, and you can see on the plan, there's a secondary line within the wetlands showing the limits of that emergent wetland. So the stream cutting through it is significant because a stream with wetlands touching it themselves can be deemed wetlands of special significance. So anyhow, we met with the DEP last March 28th, walked out to the middle of the emergent wetland, stood there, all four of us, and looked at the water, and they determined that there was no stream channel in that location. So they didn't agree with the stream channel in the front, and we had no issue with the rest of it, so we didn't bring around the rest of the site. We kind of agreed with what they had. So this plan, all that changed on this plan, one of the comments from the third-party reviewer was talking about looking at really the phase two application, how Fish and Wildlife and Natural Areas folks requested that we put a 100-foot setback off of the stream. So we increased the setback on this plan on the stream in the rear from 75 to 100. And so as far as we are concerned, as far as the DEP is concerned, I believe that the wetlands and streams are shown accurately. The setbacks are shown accurately. One of the things that is kind of confusing with wetlands of special significance is adjacency, basically. So if you have a wetland of special significance and there are other wetlands touching it, they themselves can become of special significance depending upon the type of wetland. And so DEP, and we have documentation in the response that you can see to those, has determined that adjacency stops at the tree line. So DEP does not consider forested wetlands themselves to be adjacent to wetland special significance. And so what we have on here, we have a setback off of the significant wetlands. And so you can see where the wetlands ran into a tree line, the setbacks off of the tree line, where the wetlands stop before the tree line, and then the setbacks off of the wetlands themselves. So it meets the DEP regulations for the setbacks. And so as far as this plan is concerned here, we believe that we show the wetlands and streams and setbacks correctly. And to that end, we already do have a wetland fill permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. We also got a stream crossing permit from the DEP, as well as on a previous iteration of the layout, a permit by rule for a setback reduction off of that stream. So they were very comfortable with how we were showing the setbacks and everything on there. And so we believe that some of those comments that are on the third-party review are beyond the actual location of the wetlands and streams and setbacks, are related to development on that piece, and are really the parts that should be kind of looked at as meant for the Phase 2 application, at least in our opinion. Excuse me. So beyond that, we had some comments from Public Works. They were very minor. I think he had a question about how long the private way was and where the entrance was. One thing that he did bring up that we wanted to talk about, because we didn't fully agree with it, is that our hammerhead goes on really the far side of the lot from Portland Road, so it's located as far back as possible. Public Works, the town engineer, city engineer mentioned that he thought that maybe we ought to consider routing the traffic to the future out parcel through the first parking area for the apartment complex. And the applicant certainly doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to mix residential traffic with the people coming in for whatever that future use would be, a restaurant or whatever is happening up there. So we are imagining where it's a private road and the hammerhead, that the hammerhead will serve as the location of the driveway access for that out parcel. And going back to the original approval back in 2022 of the Phase 1, when we talked about that project, that out parcel, I think there's something on the plan that says, if there's really the entrance is encouraged off of the new Merrill Drive, and if any access were granted off of Portland Road, it would be a right-in, right-out situation. So, it was always anticipated that we would have a driveway coming in right from our access point off of Merrill Drive into the back of the lot and to whatever's going to be there down the road. I mean, in the end, we're adding in a hammerhead to what's already there. The stormwater pond that's already built was designed to handle the full build-out of the out parcel. So pond was designed assuming that we can capture every square foot, of that lot, bring it to the pond. So this really is just the entrance to that. The pond still has, capacity for, another acre and a half of development in it. And just so you know, the pond is located just up from at the far end of the development, away from Portland Road, just beyond. You see that parking lot behind the second. Bring your hand up and to the left and down. It's right there. That's where the pond is. It's a large gravel wetland that's currently working fantastically. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. And I will say, just to kind of going back to the original application that we had for Phase 2, we did submit we got email addresses from the neighbors from that meeting, and they asked us to send, whenever we sent in an application, they wanted us to email the site plan and the overall cover letter to them. And so we did that for both projects. And it was explained to them that tonight was not their Phase 2 project that they'll be concerned about. This is a hammerhead. So I think that's probably why we're not seeing anybody here tonight. So they apparently got the email and listened. So anyhow, happy to answer your questions.
All right, great. Thank you, Jeff. So just to quickly recap for a second here, the Merrill Drive here, we see 224 feet from Portland Road. That's the hammerhead we're talking about there. And then as far as the wetlands and the setbacks, if you pan
I
over
can
a
go up
little
to
bit,
that,
Charles?
show you, if you want to, so the.
Those are all the dark dashed lines we
Yes,
see.
the setbacks, yeah, correct. So the one stream, let's go to the left, Charles. Yep, right to the right, just a little there. So there's a stream that's running right there, okay? And so the change from last plan to this plan was that setback went from 75 to 100. Just so you know, we have submitted our current plan to Fish and Wildlife to see if they're comfortable with our proposed setback that's between 75 and 100 on the development side and over 100 on the solar side. But that's not this application. I just wanted to kind of give background of what we're doing for that. But for right now, we believe that that is shown per request of the third-party review.
Okay, and then the significant wetland buffer lines,
Yes,
those
you see the
darker
setbacks.
dash lines.
Correct.
That's that limit of the tree line that you were talking about.
Correct. So that's 75 feet off the trees or the wetland boundary, whichever one was, I guess, further up.
Okay, all right.
And there is an exhibit in your packets showing how that was derived.
Yes.
An aerial photo and, yeah.
Yep, okay, I understand. Any questions, comments, concerns from board members? Jim?
Regarding the stormwater, for the turnaround, if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying that any stormwater from that Hammerhead turnaround, and that Hammerhead turnaround from Portland Road, like the 224 feet, that would all be a public road, or that would be private?
No, it's going to be a private road.
It'd be
Yeah.
private. And then the grayish sort of road that goes further northwest, I think it's northwest, that's all private as well.
Correct. It's not a road per se, but it's an access drive for a, so it's not a right of way with a road kind of thing, but it's the primary access drive.
And in very light lines, it looks like you have the roadway and the various entrances into the parking lots, and it looks like there's an oval there, so people have to drive around the oval.
Correct.
Slow down
So that was,
traffic.
just a little bit of history, that oval was put there as a traffic calming solution. Because folks living in the back quadrant would probably zip by the first part.
So, for any stormwater concerns for the Hammerhead, you would then capture any of the runoff, and you would run it down the private roadway to this gravel wetland? Is that?
Correct. So in your packet, I did give you the plan that says 3 pages. The second page was a site and grading plan right in there. Okay. And so you'll see that there's a catch basin located just off of the Hammerhead, and the Hammerhead's graded to come back down towards the existing road. So there's already a storm drain system there to collect what was going to be put in. There's a stub leading out to the out parcel, so it was prepared for this to happen.
So the stormwater that runs off the Hammerhead would then join with any stormwater from the site and run back along that road to the gravel wetland?
That's correct. And we were able to capture runoff from the entirety of the new road to our catch basin system and bring it to the back.
I remember from one of our last conversations about this proposal that there was some concern about easements or rights to run the stormwater or otherwise be able to use the roadway. Is that going to be an issue or something that needs to be addressed?
So we did, that was a good comment, and we did provide a road and utility maintenance of facilities document that's there that outlines basically the 3 future owners of the properties. It outlines their responsibilities to maintain the road and access and plow it and maintain it and the whole thing. So it's all right in the application.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Any other thoughts from board members, questions, concerns?
And if I may, I don't want to spoil a surprise, but we look at this as a very straightforward item. And I know that the process is completion, public hearing, then preliminary, then final. We certainly are hoping that we can somehow shorten it, you know, as much as possible, but that's obviously up to you guys.
Thank you. So first step this evening on this one is application completeness. And then we also have a public hearing this evening for this item, but any other final thoughts or concerns on application completeness for this item? Jeff?
I guess, Mr. Chair, I had gone through the checklist and, you know, and I'm getting a little confused because some of it's from, you know, December, like 4th. The financial capacity, the stormwater, the draft HOA, the topography, the utility, the stormwater, the easements, the existing and proposed easements and deed restrictions, and then the wetland of special significance. I guess I didn't see in the packet where the draft roadway agreement was. Maybe I missed it.
I think it was attachment, let's see here. Attachment 3, road and easement declaration. Right after the deed. Should be right there in your,
I have 8-page.
do you not see it?
There aren't any pages after the deed. It's 8 pages.
Really? So there should have been, okay, what was submitted hard copy and intended to be in the application. I'm not sure how that could have happened, but, so attachment 1 was the revised, basically, I took his review memo last time, and I gave everything that was listed as needing more information. So we submitted the reapplication again, the deed, a road and easement declaration, a financial capacity statement, and then response to PWD comments, and then response to third-party wetland comments. So did you get those pieces? It sounds like you got some of the, okay. Maybe you're missing attachment 3 and 4 then? I can go over those if you'd like, or
I don't see a new financial capacity letter or the road and easement declaration.
So that's pretty easy to address right here. So as part of our, in the Phase 2 application, they have a letter saying that Bar Harbor Bank and Trust provided financing for Phase 1 and looking forward to entertaining approximately $32 million in financing. The Hammerhead is less than $10,000 operation, so you know, they have that in spades. And then, you know, we did submit a declaration of common easements, Cloverleaf subdivision, City of Saco, County of York, State of Maine for Cloverleaf development. So, you know, that is in. I'm not sure if maybe Charles didn't see that either, but if not, we can resubmit that. But that was prepared, and in the hard copy at least. I'm not sure, you know, something must have happened in the upload. I'm not sure. Sure it's my fault.
Yeah, I think the exhibits that you mention here are not the same titled exhibits that we have here. I'm wondering if
Are they?
Phase 2 exhibits got inadvertently
No,
paired with the.
I think it was it's a miscommunication initiated by myself. I believe I have the document, but I had thought it was you had emailed it to me,
Okay,
but you
yeah.
had uploaded
Either way,
it, so.
Do they have the updated cover letter that shows the attachments 1 through 6?
No.
Because if not, okay, I can just take you through this real briefly because I did address the items that were needing more information, at least with a brief narrative. If you want me to read through that, I certainly can if it helps.
Yes, please.
Okay, so first of all, there were issues brought up last time. So financial capacity, we have mentioned that. I read through that. Drainage, the turnaround area will drain to the existing stormwater pond. The pond was designed to accept runoff from the out parcel in fully developed state, as we spoke about. Next, the association road maintenance documents. We've attached a road and utility easement declaration per the board's request, so that's somewhere.
I have it up right now.
Okay, fantastic. A question about topography. The Hammerhead turnaround is located in an area that was included within a topographic survey, and the grading plan shows a 1-foot contour interval, so that should meet it's designed and hooked on, and it's all gonna work pretty easily. Question about the utility plan, about the extensions, which was really more about the Phase 2 piece, but in any event, there are no utility alterations required to install the Hammerhead. It should be noted that the Phase 1 utilities were installed to allow for easy future extensions. The water line extends just past the end of the road. There is a sleeve that extends from the shoulder into the furthest gravity manhole that will allow for easy connection of a force main. And conduits were installed to allow for extension of the underground electrical line. So everything is all stubbed out beyond the road right now for Phase 2 to be installed there without having to impact Phase 1 at all. Let's see here. And then a question about applicable state and local permits. The Hammerhead construction was already included within the original site location of development permit from a stormwater perspective. That was approved as part of the first phase. There are no additional permits necessary to construct the Hammerhead. So I think that was the extent of, I think, everything that was listed as MIR. I think that was more information requested. I will say that when Charles, I think it was one of his first days here, we called and tried to figure out what exactly we want to submit for this and what was necessary. So we submitted what we thought was appropriate, and then asked for some more, and I think that we have that right here. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Great, thank you. Jeff?
So if I may, Mr. Chair, Charles, did you or anybody in your team, when they received that submittal and reviewed it, there were no flags that popped up? Because it does sound like they were pretty diligent in everything we had talked about at the previous meeting.
We will get them reviewed, no. This was the first time I'm looking at it now. So it's not that he didn't submit it, it's that I didn't get it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So it's just a miscommunication on my end. But I have them. I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to comment on it. Financial capacity looks very standard, so that one I can, on the spot, say looks good. Just reading it real quick. You saw it on screen. It's a very standard letter. For the easement, I trust it's good. I'm not an attorney, so my trust means nothing, so we'll have that reviewed.
Correct, okay. I mean, I guess, Mr. Chair, with that, the applicant's been very diligent, everything we touched upon. I would have no problem finding the application complete, knowing that staff is sending them out for peer reviews. So with that, I would move that we find the application for 896 Portland Road, Phase 1, complete.
I'll second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Joyce. Any additional discussion on the motion to find the application complete? All right, those in favor, Chris?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Carrie Lynn?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 7-0. Any other thoughts that you, board members, would like to address, speak about? Joyce?
I'm just noting in the staff overview, it mentions that if the application is determined to be complete, planning board could consider scheduling a site walk. I certainly think it would be useful to have a site walk for Phase 2 and beyond, but I don't think it's necessary for Phase 1, given the fact that we already had a site walk for the apartment buildings.
Sure, I would agree. I think Phase 2, when it's ready, I think we could do a site walk for that. But I agree, not necessary for this one here. So we do have a public hearing scheduled this evening when board members are ready.
Mr. Chair. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I move to open the public hearing.
I'll second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Jim. Any additional discussion on opening a public hearing for this item? All right, those in favor, Chris?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Carrie Lynn?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 7-0 to open the public hearing. If anyone is with us this evening that would like to speak on this item, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. We will collect comments and address them accordingly.
Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public choosing to come forward and speak, I would move that we continue the public hearing until a date that staff feels is appropriate to allow time for the legal review of the application materials. Is there a date?
We could probably do March 17th as well. That'd be a little bit of a gamble, but worst case scenario, it gets tabled to April 7th. So I think with the applicant's request, we could probably do that. Looking at the agenda that night, it seems, fairly plausible we could get through everything with some of the projects there. So I would recommend March 17th.
So with that, Mr. Chair, I would move that we continue the public hearing to March 17th, 2026, to allow staff time to have the documents peer reviewed.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff.
Second.
Second by Jim, thank you. Any additional discussion? Would the board like staff to draft findings of fact and condition of approval to review as well?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
All right, great. Any other thoughts? All right, those in favor of continuing the public hearing to March 17th and requesting staff draft findings of fact and condition of approval. Chris?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Carrie Lynn?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 7-0. Any final thoughts or questions or concerns for the applicant? All right, great. Thank you. We'll see you on the 17th. All right, our next item, item 7C, is a request to table for 986 Portland Road Phase 2. And Charles, no other action to take or questions. We had a brief update from the applicant here just a moment ago.
Yeah, there's just a lot of comments that the applicant felt they would want to address more comprehensively before coming back to the planning board. They didn't really have an update on when they will get those. Because this isn't tabling a public hearing or anything like that, I said indefinitely just to treat it as if you've never seen phase 2 before. And it'll come back for application completeness at a later date.
All right, great. Thank you. If we could get a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we continue review of this proposal to a future meeting as determined by the city planner.
I would second that.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor of the motion to table 986 Portland Road Phase 2 to a future applicable date? Chris?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Carrie Lynn?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 7-0. All right, with that, we'll move to our next item. Any general correspondence beyond the plan we saw this evening, Charles?
Nothing nothing received for general correspondence, and then just to get ahead, nothing from the planning department.
All right, so that's our next item, planning department updates. No additional, there's a few items you're working on in the background, but you'll let us know when those are prepared. With that, our next item, item 10, planning board comments. Catherine?
I have a question.
Yes.
So I think this is the first time we've seen a reference to LD 1829 in paperwork from an applicant. Are we going to get more training on that? Like, when should we start taking that into account? Is there further guidance coming?
So we had the training with the city council and their attorney to give a brief legislative overview. The next time it's coming to you, and I look to Matt and you guys are more, I still haven't done any ordinance changes or recommendations or policy work with the planning board, so I don't know what that looks like here personally. But I would assume that would come from Long Range Planning Committee to the planning board for review, then to city council. That's my understanding. We know that the rules have been posted on the state website, on MOCA in their housing section. So the rules have been posted, and then we know that the fix bill that we were anticipating was also, they had their work session on it a couple weeks ago in the legislature for this session, but it doesn't seem that there's any changes in that fix bill that really will impact Saco. I don't have a timeline for it. Emily is currently handling the long-range planning stuff, so she's working on those ordinance changes. We're working with city staff. We had a little fun design charrette with it to understand it, what questions we had. So I believe there will be something coming in the next few months. I know that the deadline hasn't changed, so the July 1st deadline is still what's there. So that's the process, or what I would anticipate the process to be. But right now, I don't think we're going to be doing any more training until we see the policy, so.
Okay.
So
So like
there-
if an applicant is referencing it, do we take that into account? Like, do we?
It's, applicants can, start preparing for it. We have our current ordinance, and that's what the planning board, what staff is kind of bound to, regardless of what the state timeline says for implementation. Right now, our site plan ordinance is the site plan ordinance, zoning, subdivision, so they can reference it and say, as part of future development, if this is enacted and implemented, it's.
Okay. I mean, it didn't seem relevant to the discussion we were having tonight with them, so it seemed fine, but,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it's the July 1st is when it's implemented. So we're hoping to have a little bit more information.
That's the
by then.
deadline for council government implementation. It doesn't mean that it automatically goes in effect for the municipality. So there's just a small nuance there. But I think for at least our purposes right now, there's no changes. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, this has always been kind of hard for me to stomach because it's outside of the scope of what we can do, and there are many restrictions on what the town can do. I don't know, this might be a good opportunity if our council liaison wanted to provide any feedback. I'm kind of curious if there's any discussion of reworking some of our ordinances or our zone layouts, because if we don't have it as a designated growth area, it doesn't sound like as much of it applies. And I don't know if they've kicked it over to legal for that concept. Do we kind of look at making our growth area smaller? Because we can't put a moratorium in place. It's very clearly spelled out. But I didn't know if Councilor Johnson had anything he'd like to add, or.
I don't at this stage. I'm kind of in the same position you all are. It's the first time hearing of it. I've been waiting for whatever the state ultimately determined at rulemaking. Happy to hear it's online because I'm looking for it as we speak. Because to your point, I think that it's going to create a lot of questions at council level on how we implement it. And again, to your point with zones, if it's specific to growth areas, perhaps we might want to reimagine some of those zones. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just going to send the rules over to the planning board now.
That'd be great. it's something we are at long-range planning, working with Emily to understand as well and provide some recommendations on as well. So it's trying to work it through and digest and provide thoughts and hopefully get some finite direction. So, yep, I think it sounds like we're all on the same page as to figuring out how to move it forward. So, yeah. Chris?
Yeah, I can foresee a lot of members of the public having a lot of misconceptions around this because they hear, oh, the state did this, it's got to be the law of the land now. So I think if there's a way that someone from the city could kind of get the word out when we do have more clarity on what the rules would look like for Saco, just so that there's not, I don't want to say nuisance applications, but where people are, wasting city time because they don't want to bother, seeing what we've put out, you know what I mean? Because I've heard from residents and developers and stuff like that, misconceptions around this stuff as in today, you know what I mean? So, we haven't even gotten the full scope of what that looks like. So if there's already questions and people having misunderstandings, I think anything we can do from a council or city standpoint to kind of clarify that, I think would help the public.
Sure. We've been able in the past to work with city staff to put together some sort of FAQ pamphlets on some of that stuff when we have new ordinances or new laws or rules that we've got to implement. So perhaps something like that on this item might help residents. Yeah. Great. Any other thoughts from board members? All right, well, thank you everyone again. I know this was an extra meeting this month on a short month, so greatly appreciated to have everyone here. And with that, we will adjourn at 7:43 p.m. Thank you, everyone.